Targeting endurance. Oh, I will never win this game. Oh, okay. Now we cannot win from here, right? We cannot win from here, right? Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 Dredgers and 2 Cephalic Coliseums. Our opponent has only 4 mana. Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. This is MahfuzVanGogh, your Dredge guy, and it's morning time. We have a Legacy challenge about to begin. It's Saturday morning here in Brazil, almost 9 o'clock in the morning, and I will try this new configuration of Turbo Satoru Dredge. We have some important things to address here, and if you want to jump into the action, you can go, of course, but if you want to understand the important things I'm trying to do with this new list, just stay with me a couple of minutes. So we have the same mana base with 18 mana sources, including 4 copies of Lion's Eye Diamond, of course. But this time I'm trying 1 basic island and 1 basic mountain instead of 2 islands or 2 mountains, or 1 island or 1 mountain, but this time 1 of each. And I did some testing with the mana base in this last week, playing leagues almost every day, but trying new things here and there. Sometimes when you don't have basic lands at all, you just fold to Wasteland decks. Wasteland is everywhere in this metagame. So it is important to have access to basic lands, but it's important to have mountain, and if I have only mountains, I will probably play with Burning Inquiry instead of Careful Study, or a basic island. And this time I'm playing 1 of each, and I think since mountain is our 14th land, I think we are good to play 13 blue mana sources and 1 extra red mana source. I hope this will fit our deck. I believe it will. Let's talk about our enablers. 11 enablers instead of 12 this time, because I want to include back the 3rd bridge from below. I think this is something positive for this deck. And since we are living in a Faerie Macabre metagame, right? Everyone is playing Faerie Macabre or Ghost Vacuums, but especially Faerie. And Faerie Macabre is super good against Breakthrough. You cast your Breakthrough, your opponent exiles at instant speed 2 important cards from your graveyard, and you sometimes can lose the game on the spot. So Otherworldly Gaze is better instead of Breakthrough, of course, in this metagame, I believe. And the selection aspect of Careful Study and Faithless Looting, I believe they are also important. Well, what else? 11 Dredgers. This is a standard for me in this last year. A 3rd bridge from below, as I already said. We're doing fine with a couple of bridges, but just to push our aggression a little bit more and to be faster when we will have access to our combo, I think including an extra bridge from below, it will work to be even faster when we need. And we still have access to the Satoru combo here with Thassa's Oracle, and I wasn't sure about playing more Turbo Dredge or Turbo Satoru Dredge, but Thassa's Oracle is great to win games against the one-ring decks, and sometimes you don't have access to many zombies because your opponent did exile your bridge from below at instant speed. This is especially important against Esper or blue-black-white or black-white decks. Sometimes against white removal, your threats just get exiled, but you still can win. You just need 3 creatures or 3 zombies or 3 tokens and reanimate Thassa's Oracle at the end of your deck. And Anger, of course. This is the important card that glues the deck together, because when everything goes wrong, you have hasty zombies. Sometimes you don't have access to Anger because you couldn't find a mountain. It could happen at some point. But after my testing, Anger is probably one of the strongest additions to this deck. So the math for me is so balanced here. We have 18 mana sources. We don't play Wasteland, of course, but we have 18 mana sources, including LED, of course. LED doubles up as a mana source as an enabler. Sometimes it's just a way to combo with Cephalic Coliseum at int speed. LED is so good in this metagame, and you can create so many traps to force your opponent's action when they have Graveyard Hate, especially when you have an extra LED in your hand. And you have 11, 11, 10, 10. I think those balanced features of the deck are nice, and I like to see the deck this way. 11 enablers, 11 dredgers, 10 free threats, and 10 combo pieces. Of course, Cabal Therapy also doubles up as an enabler. Sometimes you need to find your single black source in your starting hand to cast a Cabal Therapy on turn 1. But almost always Cabal Therapy will be only a way to create more hasty zombies with Anger, or to combo with Satoru to win the game on the same turn. What about those sideboard? This is probably a spicy and a different take that I'm doing this for the first time, guys. I never did this before. I'd never played a deck without answers to Leyline of the Void. But the truth is, at least in the competitive metagame, we are not seeing Leyline of the Void anymore. No Leylines. Sometimes a single mono red Stompy deck decided to still play with Leyline of the Void, but this card is almost absent from the current metagame. We see Faerie Macabre, we see Ghost Vacuums, we see Unlicensed Hearses, some Surgical Extractions, and of course the Endurances and Jukabox of the metagame. But we don't see that many Leyline of the Void anymore. So this is just a meta call. Of course, for a large tournament, I will not, like Eternal Awakened, for example, I will not submit a deck without answers to Leyline of the Void. But for this challenge, I'm trying to just be nasty here. And let's try to win without answers to Leyline. Let's see if this will pay off or not. And because of that, this is a meta call as well. We have 4 copies of Silent Gravestone to protect our graveyard. 2 copies of Null Rod, maybe we will fight against some artifact decks. And an Ashen Rider to be better against Show and Tell decks, especially because they are coming back. We saw, I believe, 4 Show and Tell decks well positioned in the last NCD's tournament last Sunday, I believe. So Ashen Rider is a nod to these decks. And 4 copies of Leyline of Sanctity. I noticed that Leyline of Sanctity is also good when you play against a tempo deck with several copies of Nehel Spellbound. So maybe we can use Leyline of Sanctity against them as well. And that's pretty much it. I think I talked about everything is important. But if you have some doubts, please leave your comment below, and I will, as always, I will answer you as soon as possible. And click the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment below while I will make some coffee and start this tournament. Let's go right now. I'm happier now, guys. I'm happier because I just had a cup of coffee. I'll probably make a second coffee after this round. Now I will probably rumble less and play better. So I keep this hand because we are on the draw and we already have our combo. We just need to find something with Careful Study. It's important to have 2 lands. This is almost a mulligan, but on the draw I believe... Okay, Faithless Routine is great. On the draw I believe this hand is a keep. So my opponent played a basic island, Allengar. I believe I never played against this player before. So let's start with Volcanic Island here. Let's see if this Careful Study resolves. Okay, it is resolving. Let's discard both Dredgers. And I decided to not play LED yet, because if this is a control matchup, Prismatic Ending is seeing play again. So, okay, Brainstorm at the end of the turn. So I don't want to just play LED and waste it for a Prismatic Ending. Okay, now my opponent starts their turn. Draws. Tropical Island, okay. Maybe a control deck. Oh, Lotus Petal. Maybe a combo deck. Maybe we lost the game. What do you have, opponent? Oh, Show and Tell. So this is a new art for me. So, okay, what to put here? LED or land, it doesn't matter too much. We already have Dredgers. So the options are Thassa's Oracle and Narcomoeba. Narcomoeba can be a blocker if my opponent has an Emrakul here, because we can guarantee our Narcomoeba to block Emrakul, and we need more cards to be destroyed. But my opponent doesn't have an Emrakul, has Omniscience instead, and Atraxa. So we are probably lost here. Let's see what this Atraxa will find. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Okay, Force of Will, Founder, Emrakul, the One Ring, land. Yeah, we are lost, guys. My opponent can cast the One Ring to have protection and cast Emrakul to have an extra turn because they have Omniscience in play. Omniscience is so good. Yeah, they chose Emrakul, Force of Will, the One Ring, Thundering Falls, and Ponder. I was about to concede, but my opponent passed the second main phase? Why? Okay, they did cast the One Ring. What? I'm confused. My opponent didn't cast Emrakul, just passed the turn. What? Am I dreaming? Okay, we did find Anger. Okay, let's do our thing. Maybe this was just a misplay from my opponent. Maybe they don't know how Omniscience works. Okay, let's cast Faithless Looting, and we'll dredge 12. And now we can discard our Dredgers again, and now we have an Narcomoeba. This is turn 2. Let's try to resolve this LED. Okay, it just resolved. My opponent is not wasting their Force of Will, and I'm not sure why. But now I have Ox of Agonas, and now we can win the game. Even if my opponent counters my Ox, I can cast it again. our Poxwalkers will be back, and we already have 2 Dredge Returns and Thassa's Oracle. Yeah, this is a turn 2 win. My opponent needs to counter something at some point. Oh, I see. My opponent is feeling so safe. Yeah, maybe my opponent didn't want to win the game immediately because they wanted to see my deck first. Maybe. But my opponent doesn't know about our Thassa's Oracle win. Now, Thassa's Oracle is with Dredge Return in our graveyard, so my opponent must have a hint about what's happening. So Narcomoebas are here, and now a single Emrakul cannot win the game anymore. Let's Cascabel Tap. You cannot target our opponent, of course, because of the One Ring. So let's target ourselves. I will sacrifice Ox because we can replay Ox. We have mana for that. My opponent can tap the One Ring to draw extra cards. My opponent can cast a Veil of Summer to cast an extra card. To draw an extra card, I'm sorry. But they are not doing that. Maybe my opponent is just new to Legacy and tried to play the challenge with a new deck. Maybe this is something that also can explain what is happening here. So, Grave Troll. We can even reanimate a hasty Grave Troll, but my opponent has protection from everything. So the only way to win this game is with Thassa's Oracle. Let's cast Ox again, since we have mana. And Ox enters the battlefield. What do you think, you who is watching this video, what do you think it is happening here? Is my opponent just a new player in Legacy, or maybe they got confused with Omniscience, or maybe they just wanted to see a little bit more of our own deck before winning the game next turn? What do you think it is happening? Let's try to reanimate Thassa's Oracle here. And my opponent now needs to counter that. And then we have a second Dredge Return. My opponent needs to find a second Force of Will. They need 2 forces to not lose this game now. And then on the next turn, they need a second One Ring, because we will have a huge amount of zombies at the end of this turn. We even have more Cabal Therapies. I can cast Cabal Therapy, targeting myself to discard the Cabal Therapy, and do that again just to create more and more zombies. Let's see what our opponent will do. Hey, it seems it is just resolving. Yeah, my opponent let it resolve. We won the game. Feels correct. Feels right. It just feels right. It's turn 2. My opponent was on the play, but we won the game anyways. Okay. So now what? Ashen Rider is here exactly for show and tell. So let's include Ashen Rider or Metacall. Just work. Let's find Ashen Rider on game 2, right? To effectively win the game with Ashen Rider. Now what to take from the deck? Maybe one Satoru? Just changing the target, changing our Silver Bullet. Or maybe just a Poxwalkers instead of Satoru, actually. Because if we find Satoru first, we can reanimate it. We can return, a Dread return, a Satoru. But if we find Ashen Rider first, it is also good. And sometimes you have Ashen Rider in your starting hand, and it's also good against Show and Tell. So yeah, let's submit. Oh, and opponent, if you're watching this video later here on the channel, please let me know what did happen. It was a misclick. It was just your new tournament with this deck, because I'm not sure about what did happen in the first game. Okay, this is a keep, not a great keep, but we have our better Dredger. We can have a turn 2 here. And my opponent is a Force of Will deck, so maybe this will pay off. Okay, my opponent had a slow start. Cabal Therapy could work here, but let's try to do our own thing. In the past, I tried to cast Cabal Therapy targeting our opponent to name Show and Tell. And okay, great. We have 2 Cephalic Coliseums for turns 2 and 3. And it didn't work because our opponent had only cantrips and whatever. So let's try to do our own thing here. My opponent... Okay, Ponder. Ponder is good. Ponder probably means that my opponent needs Ancient Tomb, Soulland, a Soulland, a Lotus Petal, Show and Tell, Omniscience to win the game. We still have a chance. Okay, my opponent didn't shuffle, and a second Ponder. Second Ponder is a great sign. So we still have 1 turn here. Okay, this time my opponent did shuffle. And it's our turn again. Let's Dredge. Okay, we have Ashen Rider and Dredge Return there. We just need 3 creatures to smash one of our opponent's lands. Let's find an Narcomoeba, shall we? Dredge 5. Okay, Narcomoeba is here. Have a Cabal Therapy in our... Okay, another one. Okay, great. My opponent needs a Force of Will. Since we have... Let's discard 2 Dredges and a Cabal Therapy. Since we have 2 therapies, the first one will name Force of Will instead of Show and Tell. Because what we really want to do this turn is to resolve our Dredge Return. So let's do this before attacking, because I believe we'll have an Ashen Rider at the end of this equation. My opponent can have Daze, of course. But, oh, my opponent will spend a Force of Will here. Even better, right? Because I would name a Force of Will, so that's a 2 for 1. But now it's interesting. I can name another Force of Will, the One Ring, or Show and Tell. My opponent did shuffle last turn, so let's name Show and Tell. Bing, 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 bing. Okay. And now we'll reanimate, or we'll return Dreadly, or Ashen Rider. Ashen Rider will exile one of our opponent's lands. This one is better. And now, thanks to Anger, we can attack here. My opponent is down to 14. Oh, and my opponent had Veil of Summer and Carpet of Flowers in their hand. but they don't have green mana. So those Ponders didn't find green mana. But Veil Summer and Carpet of Flowers are not especially good right now. So let's dredge 6. Yeah, we'll probably win the game now. Let's back our second Cephalic Coliseum. We dredge 6, we dredge 6, and we dredge 6. And we can discard. It doesn't matter too much. We can even win with Thassa's Oracle if we want to. Not this turn. Yeah, we need to draw an extra card. Let's win with zombies. Guys, in case you're hearing, I'm not sure if you're hearing, but my dog, Lila, is Veil of Summer. And my opponent did concede the match. Okay, we won. Alright, back to round 2. We are against Jibeta. Okay, this is a keep. Hopefully my opponent will not have Force of Will. This can be a turn 1. Okay, it's a keep. Let's see if we can win on turn 1, or maybe it's better to wait to turn 2. Okay, let's start with LED, Lion's Eye Diamond. Or maybe... Yeah, sometimes... Yeah, it is resolving. But let's just try to resolve Careful Study first. I would like to have a second land. Okay, no second land. But we managed to discard 2 Stinkwood Imps. It all depends about what your opponent is playing. Okay, Flooded Strand, and passes. Okay, you can even cast Cabal Therapy from our hand. Let's dredge 5. Otherworldly Gaze. We have some options here. Oh guys, I did some changes here with my ring light. Hopefully this light is better than the previous one. I say we should start with Cabal Therapy to see if we need to cast Otherworldly Gaze this turn, or if we have another turn, if we can wait. My opponent cracks Flooded Strand for a Tropical Island. Is this Veil of Summer? No. Brainstorm, okay. Maybe this is the Nadu Combo. Tropical Island these days usually means Nadu or Cephalic Breakfast. So I will name here Force of Will. But no... Okay, my opponent has a Keen-Eyed Curator. This card will eat us alive. We need a Faithless Looting next turn, or maybe another great thing. I think we could wait, but I think I'll try to hit something with this Otherworldly Gaze this turn. Okay, 2 Poxwalkers in a Grave Troll. We should have waited. Yeah, next turn we could have at least 2 Poxwalkers and some zombies. Not sure if this is enough to win this position against a Keen-Eyed Curator, because my opponent will have 3 mana to exile 3 new things in the next turn. So we need to win this turn. If we don't win this turn, or at least if we don't Poxwalkers this turn into play, we will not win anymore. So maybe I just have a natural draw next turn instead of dredge 6. The Raccoon. Let's dredge. Yeah, it doesn't matter. And we had a Faithless Looting. Should I wait one more turn to see if my opponent messes up? Yeah, our last card would be Faithless Looting there. Dredge 6, Faithless Looting, and we would have Breach, Thassa's, and Scouting Turn on top. Yeah. If I still have LED here, let's draw. Oh, Cephalic Coliseum is actually nice. If I still have LED, we would probably win this game with that Faithless Looting. Let's see if my opponent will mess this up. I'm not sure if I can wait here. Yeah, I think my opponent already did notice that we have Dredgers, right? And my opponent is probably waiting for our Narcomoebas to target them instead of Poxwalkers. Yeah, my opponent will just target my Narcomoebas. This game is over. Let's concede here. I think I'm still sleeping, guys, a little bit. I'll grab a second cup of coffee after this round. I just had breakfast here. Okay, Silent Gravestone. I'm not sure about you, but I'm super influenced by my hungry feelings. If I'm hungry, if I'm thirsty, if I need to go to bathroom, my play is not the best. I should have played this a little bit better. But okay, let's come back stronger for game 2. So in case if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm including 4 copies of Silent Gravestone against my opponent's Curator, maybe Avenging Ooze, maybe Faerie Macabres, and so on. And of course I'll exchanging the Oracle combo because Dredge Return targets. And if we have Silent Gravestone, those are the worst. These are the worst cards in our deck. Okay, we are on the play. Let's pay attention. Oh, should we try this? Okay, let's go for the science here. If this single Careful Study resolves, we find a Dredger, we win the game. I know it's weird, but I think this is a keep. Not a great keep, but I think this is a keep because we have all the tools to be super fast here. Okay, let's start with Volcanic Island and Careful Study. Okay, my opponent has Force of Will. Exiling Uro. Okay, let's play this LED. I don't think my opponent has Prismatic Ending, Basic Island, and pass. Another LED. So let's play another land and our second LED. Okay, Brainstorm, main phase, and Dried Arbor as the land of the turn. Okay, let's fin the deck here with a second Volcanic. And now, okay, Careful Study is great. Let's draw our Dredgers. Okay, 1 Dredger and 1 Otherworldly Gaze. And unless my opponent has Surgical Extraction or Faerie Macabre, we should win this game this turn. My opponent kept a slow hand with Force of Will. Do we wait? No, I don't think so. I think we have the win here. With this Faithless Looting, we have the win, because now I can discard my hand to cast Faithless Looting instead of crack Cephalic Coliseum. And if my opponent has Faerie Macabre, we can just crack Cephalic Coliseum in response. I think my opponent has something, because they are just waiting a little bit. Oh, they have a Force of Will. That was unexpected. Force of Will, exiling Force of Will. Okay. My opponent was really holding those forces. But now I have a Cephalic Coliseum. Let's dredge 4. And 4 again. And 6. We have Narcomoeba, only 1 Bridge, and 1 Cabal Therapy. And we have this Otherworldly Gaze to find, okay, Ox of Agonas is great. At this point, I don't think we need to hold anything, right? On top. I don't think we need to keep a Gravestone on top. Let's put everything into our graveyard. And I'll see what's going on here, because my opponent is probably an Endurance deck, or Green Sun Zenith deck, I mean. But Nadu is what? Oh, just a Consign to Memory and Veil of Summer. I was thinking about Nadu, but maybe I was just wrong. Okay, my opponent plays the land, and nothing else. And we can cast Ox of Agonas now, and that's why I prioritize Volcanic Island in this deck building. Okay, Narcomoeba. My opponent will consign our Narcomoeba to memory, but we now... I was already thinking about casting Cabal Therapy to take that consign to memory before resolving Ox, but my opponent was faster than me, and it was actually better for us. Let's put this Ox into play. We'll dredge 6, and 6 again. Okay, now we have Boxwalkers and Bridges, and Anger. Yeah, now we will just win. I'm not sure if we can win this turn. You can see 2 Cabal Therapies. We don't have Dredge Return anymore, so we can probably just push lots of damage here. Math is for blockers, right? So let's just... Okay, my opponent has a Veil of Summer, we know that. I just want to make some zombies. So this Cabal Therapy gets countered, because it has no legal targets. Not actually countered, it's just removed. And now we can name anything. Balls of Fire is good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, my opponent did concede. It was lethal after all, or almost lethal. Okay, now it is game 3. My opponent saw our Silent Gravestones. But actually my opponent didn't mulligan to find Graveyard Hate. My opponent had 3 Force of Wills, 3 forces. I think we will just submit the deck back. We didn't saw that many creatures. It seems like a control deck, but oh, this is good. This is not fast. I would love to have a second land or LED in our starting hand, but this is definitely a key. My opponent starts with Basic Forest and Halfling. Okay, that is a creature. Another Careful Study is solid. I kind of want to resolve a Careful Study here before Gravestone. I'm not sure, because since we have a second one, even if my opponent counters the first one, it feels important to have our second land as soon as possible. Okay, my opponent has Force of Will. That probably means that my opponent doesn't have fast Graveyard Hate in their hand like Endurance. Green Sun Zenith with X equals to 1. Birds of Paradise. Okay, this is our upkeep. Let's draw. Ooh, LED. Great. Yeah, I prefer to draw since we already have Grave Troll here. And now, let's cast Careful Study, because my opponent still has 3 cards in their hand. Maybe one of them is Force of Will. No? Okay, oh, and now we have other lands. Great, beautiful. That's exactly what I wanted. I think we should go for it, right? Before my opponent combos here. Let's... probably doesn't matter. And we'll cast our Silent Gravestone. Oh, this is enough to force my opponent's second Force of Will. Okay. I was debating with myself here. Do I cast the Silent Gravestone or not? And it was enough. Maybe my opponent has Faerie Macabre as their last card. I can still go for it, because we have 2 lands to Rectify the Coliseum next turn. Or I can hold this a little bit more. Well, we lost game 1 because I tried to be fast in the wrong moment. So let's wait one more turn here. Okay, my opponent has Brainstorm. Trying to hit the Curator, Green Sun Zenith, or maybe a Fairy, or maybe a Surgical. Okay, they have a land. Can also be an Uru. Oh, I got a Soul Cauldron. Now I see what my opponent is cooking. Literally, in their Cauldron. Okay, I think that just resolves. Because we have our Dredger in our hand. We have another land. My opponent is waiting patiently. Zero cards in their hand. This is game 3. This is the moment. Let's cast this Otherworldly Gaze. Only lands, but Cephalic Coliseum is great here. It's a great draw. Because now we will have 2 Cephalic Coliseums available. My opponent cannot target Golgar Grave Troll. If they do, we just crack the second Coliseum in response. So yeah, let's sacrifice our first Cephalic Coliseum here. We have only 1 Dredger. My opponent can target only 1 card with the Cauldron. I think we have this, guys. We even have a Volcanic Island to win with Angry Zombies, and my opponent is stepped out. Okay, they can have a Dried Arbor, but that's it. Oh no, they can't, because this is a Flooded Strand. Yeah, so I think we have this. With double Cephalic Coliseum plus our best Dredger. My opponent is thinking here. We will dredge 6 and 6 again. The first Boxwalkers is there. And dredge 6 again. We will dredge 12. Great. We will dredge 36 this turn. And we have 3 Narcomoebas. Modo is a little bit laggy here. I'm trying to discard and okay, finally. And now our Narcomoebas have haste, but we can do much better than that. My opponent's best play here is probably exile Anger with the Soul Cauldron, because we already have 2 bridges, 3 Narcos, 1 therapy, but we will hit more with our second Cephalic Elysium. My opponent is thinking about exiling this last Narcomoeba here. And you see how this play, the sequence of plays that we did this last turn is important to define what this dredge build is. Everything started with an Otherworldly Gaze. We already had 1 Cephalic Elysium, it would not be enough against this deck. My opponent is trying to hit Poxwalkers, okay. But it is probably not enough, because we'll just crack our second Cephalic Elysium. And I believe I said that at the intro of this video. Otherworldly Gaze is incredibly good against targeted removal spells, or removal permanents like the Soul Cauldron. Okay, we have everything we need to win this game. Let's cast our first therapy here, just to make some zombies. Doesn't matter too much here, we can name anything. My opponent is Hellbent. The second therapy, we still have a third. It will not be exactly lethal, I believe we will put our opponent down to 3 life. But I don't think they can win with a single card from the top, right? And this is, again, why Anger is so good in this deck. Because if we still need to attack twice against my opponent, maybe they can find something, especially because they have the Soul Cauldron. But now it is just late. Let's see. It's not over yet. Yeah, it is over. My opponent did concede the match, and we won our second round. Let's go to our third one. Alright, round 3. We are paired on the draw this time against MayhemDJ. And this hand is a keep. We don't have dredgers yet, but with so many great enablers in our hand, I think we will find them. My opponent starts with City of Traitors, and oh, okay. And this would not be a problem with LED and a dredger here, but now we need to top deck a dredger. Hopefully my opponent will not have Wasteland. This can be a Prison deck or Eldrazi, probably Eldrazi. Yeah, Eye of Ugin means big monsters. Chew it that heralds the end. This is a fast clock. A second LED is not the worst, but we need to top deck a dredger. If we don't top deck a dredger next turn, I can go for it. Just cracking both Cephalic Elysiums and hope for the best. Those Eldrazi's will put us to a bit test here, this Chalice of the Void. Opponent attacks us. Yavimaya, okay. And that's it. Yeah, this could be slightly different if we started on the draw. My opponent will still have Chalice of the Void. Started on the play, I mean. My opponent will still have a Chalice of the Void, but let's grab... Do I go for it this turn? But we would see 2 extra cards. I think we should go for it. Let's crack our first Cephalic Elysium here. Hopefully we will find a Dredger. We need to find a Dredger this turn and Ox of Agonas next turn. No Dredgers on the top 3 cards, yeah. Our deck is betraying us, come on. We cannot cast Otherworldly Gaze. We can, of course. We can cast if we hit a Poxwalkers. Okay, now we have a Dredger. Okay. We cannot cast anything else there. So let's pass the turn. Chalice and Vexing Bauble are, okay, once upon a time for our opponent, are great cards that Eldrazi players are always exchanging, one for the other one. I saw some players opting for 2 of each, 2 and 2. 2 Chalices, 2 Vexing Bauble. I'm not an expert, but I think it is better to have a 1 option with 4 copies. What my opponent is playing, so in Microspawn, so no Volcanic Island for us. Because with Chalice of the Void, at least for us, if we are on the play, Chalices is worse against us, because usually our first play is strong enough to at least find action for turn 2, or even win the game on turn 1 sometimes. But Vexing Bauble can hold our game a little bit more, because it just counters our Cabal Therapies and Dread Return. This game did work because we were on the draw and our deck needed too many things to find. Okay, no Ox here, we can concede. We'll be on the play on game 2. And on the play, I believe we are slightly favored against Eldrazi. But my opponent probably will have Graveyard Hate. Some Eldrazi players still like Leyline of the Void, but the majority these days play with Faerie Macabre. So let's do the same sideboarding, only including Gravestone instead of the Oracle combo. We could also just go for it without any changes being on the play. Okay, this is better. It's not that fast, we don't have LED, but this can win against the Chalice of the Void. And if my opponent has a Faerie Macabre on turn 3, we can cast Faithless Looting again, even if we don't draw anything good. So this is a key. My opponent also has 7 cards and a Devourer of Destiny. This can look for good cards, like Graveyard Hate. So let's start with Faithless Looting. We found another Cephalic Elysium. In case if my opponents don't have a Faerie Macabre here, if they don't have anything great against us on turn 1, we will probably win with a Cephalic Elysium on turn 2 and 3. So let's dredge 5. Even though we have even Ox there. We cannot cast Ox yet. So let's just crack Coliseum. We dredge 5, we dredge 6, and 5. Okay, Nakomiba, Poxwalker's Cabal Therapy. We can start forcing our opponent to discard that Devourer of Destiny. Now we even have some hasty zombies. So let's name Devourer. Oh, my opponent's hand is not that good. Yeah, my opponent probably had a keep based on that Devourer of Destiny, but they didn't find what they need. And my opponent knows that and concede game 2. Okay, let's go to our final game this match. And I believe you just submitted the deck back. We didn't saw Faerie Macabres, but even if my opponent doesn't have them, Kozilek's command also targets cards from your graveyard. And now we are on the draw. Oh, this hand is debatable. This could... I will do a print here to put this on the channel later. Is this a keep or a mulligan in this situation? Let's see. And now, I think this hand is probably a keep, not the best keep. But we lost game 1 on the draw because our opponent had a turn 1 Chalice. This hand can beat a turn 1 Chalice if we draw a second land. And if my opponent doesn't have a Chalice of the Void, we can win the game on turn 2 again. So let's get or turn 3. Okay, my opponent has a Devourer of Destiny again. And Once Upon a Time. So my opponent will first resolve Once Upon a Time to have better choices. This is a great combination of cards. So my opponent will see several cards. 8 fresh cards with, and my opponent... Oh, my opponent had 3 Chalices on top and didn't want them. So maybe this time my opponent needed lands. Okay, let's just resolve our Careful Study. Please, a land on top. Please, not a land. Otherworldly Gaze is good. So hopefully my opponent will not have a Wasteland in their hand. Oh, my mouth. Now what? Do I just dredge? Oh, no, I will not dredge because my opponent has Faerie. Okay, as expected. So we need to draw a land. And we did draw a land, indeed. Now we need our second land, or third land this game. No lands. Let's try again. New Dredgers there. Eye of Ugin for our opponent. Flash Wrecker. Okay. We are still alive. And now we can dredge. And after dredging... Okay, Nakomiba, let's see if this enters the battlefield. We don't have nothing great or going on or on our graveyard. So let's... Okay, Volcanic Island for next turn. Next turn we can Craxify Coliseum. Hopefully my opponent doesn't have a second Wasteland. They have Sowing Microspawn, so we must take that card from our opponent's hand. Because we want our lands next turn. Okay. Guys, I think we can win this. Our opponent's hand is not good. They have only Devourer of Destiny. And next turn we will Craxify Coliseum. We are ahead this game. Oof. Against Chalice, against Faerie Macabre. We can definitely win this game. So we draw our Volcanic Island. And we crack it. And we will dredge 6 and 5 and 4. Okay, now we need to be strategic here. We can discard only 3 cards. We don't have dredgers in our graveyard. My opponent has a Devourer of Destiny that we can force them to discard. But we need to be aggressive here because at any moment my opponent can draw something big. Like a Kozilek's Return or a second Flash Wrecker, and my opponent chain 2 Eldrazi's. They can win the game out of nowhere. So I think I will probably discard Bridge and 1 Therapy. I can even cast Cabal Therapy targeting myself just to have my second Therapy. And then force my opponent's hand. Yeah, that's exactly what I do. We don't need Dredgers anymore to win this game. We need to be faster here. Because we'll win this turn with lots of power. So let's discard Cabal Therapy. And now we will take that Devourer of Destiny from our opponent's hand. Devourer of Destiny. And now we have Hasty Zombies. We will attack for 9 this turn and 12 next turn. So yeah, my opponent needs to draw a blank. Like a land or a Faerie Macabre. City of Traitors and Totem Seer. It would be okay. Oh, 6 mana. Is another Devourer of Destiny? Oh no. From the top. It happens, guys. Now my opponent doesn't need to target our cards in our graveyard because they only need to kill us with Flash Wrecker. The first Kozilek's command will find something on top. They draw a card. Now they can exile our bridges. They did find a second Kozilek's command. Okay, this is the end. We don't have Wonder to fly above our opponent's creatures. And with those next triggers, my opponent will just win the game this turn. Almost there, guys. I feel like this was a super competitive match, but my opponent found the tools that they need to find to win before us. Let's go to our next one. Round 4, guys. Almost midday. This hand is a keep. We are on the play. That Scouting Tarn is probably Volcanic Island. And I think we will easily win the game if we find a Dredger this turn. Of course, my opponent can always be on a fast combo, but Faithless Looting will get us there. Go, Looting, go! Okay, we did find Dredgers. 2 thugs. Now let's see what our opponent plays. Undercity Deceivers. So, a blue-black deck. Maybe this is a Tempo deck, or maybe a Froginator deck. We will dredge 4, Amoeba and Grave Troll are excellent, but now I will not have a Threshold. I will not say no to Narcomoeba just to have Threshold, and I still think we need to play around days, since our Faithless Looting did resolve. So I will play Cephalic Coliseum here and try to resolve a Careful Study, even if my opponent has Wasteland. But yeah, it is what it is. Because if my opponent has Wasteland, they will Wasteland me on one land anyways. So let's play around days. With Dredge 6, with Dredge 5. Okay, we have a Dredge Return there. So not great hits. We must maximize for next turn. Let's discard the Cabal Therapy here, because I think this can be a game-winning shot. So let's name Reanimate. Okay, ding ding ding. How does he know? The Cabal Therapy Master attacks again. So yeah, this is a Reanimator deck. And now my opponent cannot cast Entomb plus Reanimate on turn 2. And we have 3 Dredgers in our graveyard, so we are doing fine. I was thinking about discarding my second Grave Troll at least, so we can have 2 Great Dredgers, but when my opponent played Undercity Silvers and kept the card on top, I smelled Entomb plus Reanimate. So now we'll Dredge 6, and the card on top was indeed an Underground 6. So now we are in a great position to win this game. Let's crack our Cephalic Coliseums. We have 2 extra Narcomoebas here. Foxwalkers is there, Dredge Return is there. Our opponent doesn't have way to stop our Cephalic Coliseum. We have another Cabal Therapy, so we can take our opponent's Force of Will, discard a Bridge and 2 Dredgers, 12 cards in our deck. We have the win. First Cabal Therapy. My opponent has a Brainstorm here, but we will always name... Okay, my opponent just concedes, makes sense. Now it would be harder, because we have many tools against this deck. We have Leyline of the Void and Silent Gravestone, but my opponent also have great tools against us. Let's include you and you, and let's take back the Dredge Return combo, 1 Poxwalkers, Anger. Basically, we take all of our weaknesses from the deck, plus 1 Enabler, and 1 Poxwalkers. So we can, especially on the draw, play full defense. When I play Blue Dredge with counterspells, okay, this is with counterspells and other cards, playing in the control mode includes Daze, Leyline, and everything you can include. Okay, so you have a Leyline in a hand of 7. My opponent kept 7 cards. Let's see if they have a bounce on turn 2 or not. Oh, they have Ghost Welcome, so as expected, my opponent has something against us. Silent Gravestone would be so good here. I'm not even sure if I want to resolve this Careful Study now, because my opponent can just our cards. And since we have a Cephalic Coliseum, it's probably better to just wait 1 more turn. Okay, my opponent will counter my IDD. Force of Will, Exiling Force. So let's just pass here. Let's be patient. My opponent did exile our IDD from our graveyard. Swamp Cycling. Roll of Khazad-dûm. Now it is exiled. And a second Ghost Vacuum, okay. Silent Gravestone, I need you. From the top, come on. Cabal Therapy. So we place a Cephalic Coliseum here. I think I'll just cast an Narcomoeba. So let's grab our single Underground Sea and cast it. Okay, we have the advantage. We have the first threat is in play. My opponent is keeping our graveyard clean. Oh, it is a miracle. I believe in miracle. And now, we have so many good draws in our deck now. My opponent has 2 cards in the deck. Come on, let's draw something. Silent. Yes, yes. Yes, baby. My opponent has only 2 forces in their deck now. We are playing around days. Let's try to resolve this Careful Study, but I think my opponent has days. No, they don't. So now we can discard our best cards. We have a 3rd land. Life is beautiful. I will not block Metamorphosis Fanatic, so we can attack with Narcomoeba here. Now my opponent has a lifelink creature, but we have our game. From turn 4 and beyond, we have our game. Of course, my opponent can have cards like bounce spells like Petty Theft, but we have Leyline and Gravestone. Oh, they have a Petty Theft. My mouth! My mouth! I will keep my mouth shut from now on. Second time this Legacy challenge that I say something and... Oh. Okay, now we don't have Dredges anymore. Of course, we can replay Silent Gravestone, right? And we can... Yeah, this Leyline is just the worst card to draw now. But I think I will ignore Silent Gravestone because my opponent did use their Petty Theft. And I think we need a Death Touch creature to block Metamorphosis Fanatic. I think this is probably best instead of playing Silent Gravestone now that we don't have anything going on. And again, I will attack with my Narcomoeba. Okay guys, I was celebrating too early. Let's buckle up because this will be longer than expected. But this is super interesting game. This is super interesting. We have our thing, our defensive things, and our opponent also have 2 Graveyard Hate. These are 2 Graveyard decks with 2 Graveyard Hate pieces from each side. Which one will win this battle? We have a Cabal Therapy and a Poxwalkers in place, so if you can stay a little bit longer, opponent don't want days. Oh, Synchro Imp is great, it's excellent here. We have so many good options here. Yeah, now we are ahead again. But my opponent can have another Risen Borrower. And those decks usually play with 2 or 3 Risen Borrowers. Borrowers. This is a hard card to say for me in English. Risen Borrower. Is that correct? Now I have some options here, and I will probably cast Cabal Therapy first. We can take another Metamorphosis Fanatic hit. Part of me believes that my opponent doesn't have a single thing, but my opponent is holding 2 cards the whole game. So maybe they have another thing in their hands. So we'll name Raisin Borrower. No, just Entomb and Reanimate. Okay. So I think we should attack here. Let's attack. Okay. And now we will put Stinkweed Imp into our graveyard again. I mean, a second Stinkweed Imp. Stinkweed Imp. And we are ahead again. But my opponent can draw a second Petty Theft or maybe other lifelink giant creature. So this is not over. Oh! Why? I just... Okay, so 8 lifelink power in play. But we know that our opponent only has Entomb and Reanimate in their hand. So those are blanks, and now I can cast Stinkweed Imp as a Death Touch block, similar to Death Touch blocker. We cannot lose to those fanatics, right? And I think we'll wait with that Cabal Therapy, at least for now. Let's attack with only Narcomoeba. Nobody expects a Death Touch blocker in Legacy. And we have 2. Yeah, we are holding those fanatics. Hold the ground. Oh, we have a Faithless Looting there. Narcomoeba enters now. Okay, we could go for it, or we can just resolve Faithless Looting, which is probably better because we have only a single Dredger here. But we should attack first, I believe. We could also wait, or we can cast Golgari Thug and then cast a Cabal Therapy, but we don't have another creature there. Okay, let's not attack this turn. And I'll cast Cabal Therapy, targeting myself, sacrificing Narcomoeba. In case you're wondering why I didn't attack, is because my opponent has a Brazen Borrower in exile. Let's remember that. My opponent can block my Narcomoeba. So let's cast Faithless Looting. We are down to 6 life. But life is a resource, and I think we are ahead this game. Okay, Narcomoeba, another Narcomoeba. We need to find more bridges here, because now my opponent can just cast a Brazen Borrower, and they will have a flying attacker. They will not attack since we have 2 Narcomoebas in play, but they could attack. Now what? Yeah, no good attacks for our opponent. We dredge 4. My opponent has 4 cards in their hand. Oh, this is so stressful. And I'm hungry. I need to have some lunch soon. Against 2 giant lifelinkers, I'm not sure if we can just crack Cephalic Coliseum to win the game like we always do. And now my opponent has even more cards in their hand. They can have another Force of Will, they can have removal spells, another Fairy, or maybe just a bunch of Reanimates and Entombs. We don't have Dredge Return, Ox, or Anger anymore. So we must win in the old-fashioned way. Let's try to resolve this Otherworldly Gaze. Okay, another Gravestone. Do I keep it just as an insurance? Because my opponent's deck usually play with at least 2 Petty Thefts. We already have Leyline and Gravestone, but maybe we like another Gravestone on top. We are playing for the long game here. Okay, let's keep the second Gravestone on top. Now we have 2 bridges. I think I can start attacking with my Pokeswalkers here. And probably one Narcomoeba, because Fanatics cannot fly and we have blockers on the floor. We can even block with 2 zombies instead of a Death Touch creature since we have Leyline. Our bridges are safe. Let's cast a Cabal Therapy targeting my opponent, sacrificing Pokeswalkers. And we can name Force of Will. Daze. So it seems that our next Silent Gravestone is safe. My opponent can top deck a Force of Will, but if they don't, we will probably resolve the Gravestone that we have on top. And I'm only playing that defensively because my opponent has 2 Ghost Vacuums and 2 Giant Fanatics. So let's try to resolve this Gravestone. And now, like before, we can try again. We can hit our opponent with Pokeswalkers and an Narcomoeba. Slowly but surely winning this game. Down to 11. I could force my opponent's Daze here, going down to 5, casting Golgari Thug, and then next turn resolving in Stinkweed Imp, and my opponent doesn't have a Daze anymore. This is an option. Or you can just crack Cephalic Coliseum. We still have 1 Cabal Therapy, 1 Breach. We don't have that many threats left in our deck, so we must do some math here. Let's pass a turn. Let's not cast this Golgari Thug into Daze. We're ahead in this race. My opponent played Polluted Delta. This was their draw for this turn, so their hand is the same, right? Oh no, we're not sure actually. Okay, another Narcomoeba is excellent. And now we have 3 bridges. Let's attack with you, and you. 5 power attacking, down to 6. We are equals now. So let's try to hit that last Cabal Therapy. Okay, a basic island. Is a basic island important to win this game? Probably not, but if my opponent has a Wasteland, let's keep this basic island on top just in case. Okay, my opponent draws another card and passes again. We are doing, guys. We are doing. Do I draw that basic island? I don't think we need that island anymore. Okay, Faithless Looting is interesting. We have 7 cards left. I believe we will probably just win from here. I just want to see... We need one more turn to win this game. My opponent needs to block or destroy one of our creatures this turn or next turn. So let's attack with 3 Narcomoebas. Because next turn we can fly and win the game with 3 Narcomoebas and 1 Stinkweed Imp. We can even cast this Golgari Thug as an extra blocker. My opponent is down to 3. Okay, I believe we are doing it. Thoughtseize is targeting themselves. Okay, my opponent is conceding here. Oh, they have a second one. And they did cast. I appreciate that. I can understand. I will lose this in my own ways. Okay, we won our 4th match. Let's do a quick pause to have some lunch and come back. A round? Alright, next round. Now I'm fooled again. And this hand is a keep. Our opponent is Gabri091. I remember this player. I believe they play with blue-black tempo decks, sometimes with Graveyard Hate in the main deck. So let's be careful here. Oh, my opponent has a Force of Will, so that means they probably couldn't handle our turn 1. We don't have a Dredger yet, so Overworld Gaze is actually better than Careful Study. We need a second land here. My opponent did exile Tamio, so let's see if they have another 1-drop. Basic Island and a second Tamio. Okay, we will draw our second land like a champ, and now we crack it. I believe we can grab a second Volcanic Island here. Let's not play around Wasteland. Don't need here. We still don't have Dredger, but our graveyard is actually packed. We have 2 Gazes, 2 Therapies, and 1 Poxwalkers. We only need 1 Dredger. My opponent attacks with Tamio and gains a Clue and a Brainstorm. So my opponent opted to flip Tamio faster. Maybe they don't have a second land. Maybe they needed to cast that Brainstorm. They activate Tamio. No, they don't. They have a second land now. Underground Sea. Oh, and they have a Spellbomb. What I was talking about. Oh, my opponent will immediately crack Spellbomb. I understand, because we have so many things going on there. Now it's our turn. We need to resolve this Careful Study. Okay, great hits. We did find our Dredger, and we have an LED for next turn. I don't think my opponent has ways to destroy an artifact, so let's play it. Ponder. Hopefully my opponent will not find their second Spellbomb. A second Ponder. The first one did shuffle. Oh, and the second Ponder also shuffles my opponent's library. Tamio pluses. Oh, and my opponent has Wasteland. Okay, it's a little bit here. And now we will Dredge 6. Okay, we have Ox. So we can even cast Ox twice this turn. Oops, not blue mana, red mana. And we need to choose 8 useless cards here. We don't have 8 useless cards. We need to exile 1 useful card. A Dredger or Therapy? I think I want Bridges here. And I want Therapy, so I can cast Ox again. So let's exile Golgari Thug. Ox of Agonas enters the battlefield. We'll Dredge 6 and draw 2 cards. Actually, great cards. It's nice to have another land. We didn't play a land this turn yet. Let's see what's going on with my opponent's hand. They don't know that we have a Facelting and Underground Sea. So I'll name Days. Just a couple of Fatal Pushes. Okay, so let's play Underground Sea. We have a Dredge return there. So we don't have 9 cards to exile with Ox. So let's put those 2 cards there. Now we have Anger. We can kill Tamio. Not really. We need more zombies to do that. Let's return Ox. And now I believe we can win in so many ways. Dredge 6. Dredge 6 again, and Dredge 6 again. We have 3 bridges now. Now we have the win. Now nothing can stop us. Maybe you can just ignore Tamio and go right into our opponent's face. I will discard Grave Troll, because this Grave Troll will be huge. I wrote an article on my Patreon about 5 different win conditions that are the 5 different win conditions that our deck has, but I don't think I remembered to include a giant hasty Grave Troll. Yeah, we won game 1. Even against the Spellbomb and Forces and Tamio, which is nice. But game 2 is harder. Game 2, maybe my opponent also has Ghost Vacuums, maybe Fairies, maybe Surgicals, maybe Gravedigger's Cage. Since my opponent had a Spellbomb in the main deck, I'm considering including Line of Sanctity on the draw. Because my opponent probably also has 2 or 3 Thoughtseizes. So Line of Sanctity can be a good addition after sideboarding. Yeah. Let's keep our enablers. We need that against the tempo deck. We need those. Okay, my opponent is mulliganing to 6. I like this hand a lot against a tempo deck on the draw. If my opponent keeps 6 cards with Forces, for example, this hand is pretty good. We have access to 2 basic lands here. Let's do a quick copy of this. Let's see if this will work. I'll send this picture to my patrons after this video being published. Okay, so now my opponent starts with Polluted Delta, kept 6 cards. and passes, so no spell bomb on turn 1. Otherworldly Gaze is excellent. Otherworldly Gaze is one of our best draws here. Because I'm not sure if we... Okay, now it's the time. My opponent could have Daze, but now we can play around Daze. Nothing that great, right? Ox is good. At some point we maybe cast Ox with their escape ability. Oxwalkers is a good card, but we would like to see a Dredger there. But this seems that it will be a long battle. My opponent didn't want Polluted Delta. Okay, another land. Samuel, alright. And that's it. My opponent is holding 1 mana. We found another land. Let's grab our basic mounting. And we'll try to resolve Otherworldly Gaze, because this can put Poxwalkers right back into the battlefield. Yeah, it is resolving. My opponent is probably holding Force of Will. Yeah, Force of Will is any Murktide. Ooh. Yeah, my opponent noticed that we need Dredgers, we need action, and we don't have. Now we have a Poxwalkers. Poxwalkers is good, and my opponent doesn't have a Brainstorm yet. I thought he's targeting us. What do you think my opponent will choose? I believe Careful Study is the best card here. Faithless Looting is better than Careful Study, but Faithless Looting has flashback, and Careful Study has no flash. Yeah, my opponent agrees. And a Wasteland. Oh, we are playing around Wasteland. We are doing good. About Therapy is there. My opponent has only 1 card in their hand, so this Faithless Looting will resolve. Unless my opponent has Spell Pierce. No Spell Pierce. Okay. So let's discard Dredger and Therapy or Anger. Let's discard Anger first, because now we have Threshold. Faithless Looting can wait. And let's see if my opponent has an instant response against our Sync with Imp. Their last card can be a Surgical or Faerie Macabre. Or even a Consign to Memory. Okay, Dredge 5, Dredge 4. And that's it. We now have Garglyph Troll. We must discard 3 cards. I think I will keep Sync with Imp as leftover Dredge in my hand, just in case. Because my opponent maybe has a Spell Bomb on top of their library, and then we can rebuild with... So my opponent is down to 3 with a single card in their hand. They can... Let's see what they have. They can crack that clue. I don't think my opponent has a single thing here, but let's name Daze anyways. Yeah, Consign to Memory, okay. We don't need to take that Consign to Memory now. We need to take that before casting Ox of Agonas. So let's pass. My opponent will probably crack that clue. Yeah, this turn 4, Tameo attacks, investigates, and my opponent, oh, draws a card immediately. Maybe trying to flip Tameo if they have a Pounder or Brainstorm. Psychic Frog, okay. Frog is not that great against us, but in this position we would love a flyer. No flyers yet. But our graveyard is actually really good. We have 2 therapies, we have Ox, we still have Volcanic Island. Oh, we don't have another red land, unfortunately. This Scouting Tarn is not grabbing anything else, I think. Yeah, all of our lands are already dredged. But that's still fine. My opponent will definitely not block with Psychic Frog, right? We have some options here. I believe the first one is taking that Consign to Memory, just in case my opponent has a Force of Will plus Consign to Memory in their hand. We will play around Daze, but not around Force of Will. So let's take that Consign to Memory. Okay, just a Wasteland. And we have everything we need to win against Waste. So Faithless Looting. We Dredge 5, and 5 again. Nakomeba is great. Oh, and now we have a Dredge Return there. So let's discard you and you. I opted to attack first because we weren't sure about what's going to happen after our Faithless Looting. But now, knowing that we have Ox of Agonas there, we should probably have waited to win this turn. Because now we will find our bridges. Our bridges are hiding somewhere. And now we will probably end this turn with lots of zombies. We'll Dredge 6. Where are our bridges? Dredge 6. Oh, there you were. We still have 1 extra bridge. And still have Narco. Narcos? Dredge 4. Okay, we had 2 Narcos and 3 bridges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In our last 10 cards of the deck, we had our 3 bridges, 2 Narcos. Okay, it happens. It is the Dredge variance. The well-known Dredge variance. But now, we could win the game this turn. Now we cannot, but we will probably do. Because we have blockers to the Psychic Frog and my opponent has only a Wasteland. So we can name anything here just to make some zombies. And this is important because my opponent can draw a Spell Bomb or a Surgical. So let's guarantee our value here. We'll name anything. Yep. And that's it. Let's pass the turn. Tameo attacks. We'll block with our Narcomoeba. You cannot hit me, Tameo. I have some illusions to block you. Block your attack. And my opponent draws a card. They have Wasteland and 2 unknown cards in their hand. They play Wasteland, 2 unknown cards. They have Spell Bomb! Alright, alright. And another Frog. And they cracked a Spell Bomb. Okay, so no graveyard for us. Oof, we have this, guys. We have this. We have more than lethal on board. 1 card left in our deck. And we will attack with all creatures. We have this. We have this. Who is Psychic Frog anyways? Oxwalkers is the beast. And my opponent is thinking here, but there is nothing to think. Even if my opponent blocks 1 Ox and 1 Poxwalkers, we have 15 damage going on. Passing by. Okay, we won. And 1 left to the top 8. Okay guys, this is our final round before top 8. We must win this to guarantee our or stay in the top 8, I mean, because we are already on top 8. We believed we started this in 4th position this round. But if we lose, we can get out of the top 8. My opponent said, good luck, have fun. And I say the same. This is a good hand on... Okay, my opponent... I played against my opponent many times, and usually they play control decks or blue decks. So that's why I think this hand is good. Nadu Combo is awful, but this hand is good. With double Otherworldly Gazes and one Faerie Macabre, we will find whatever we want. Now, in response to this brainstorm, let's cast Otherworldly Gaze. Okay, we will keep Faithless Looting for next turn. Dredge Return and Bridge from Below can wait a little bit more to be useful. And my opponent has a second land. Is this an Esper Vial, maybe? My opponent is in Yorion deck. Oh, Lavinia. Lavinia is super good against us, because now it works as a Vexing Bubble, because it will counter our Dredge Returns and Cabal Therapies. We can still win this, but it will be a little bit harder. Faithless Looting resolves. We can discard both Dredgers. And now let's crack this Scalding Tarn. Let's guarantee our black mana, because sometimes against decks like this, you need to cast creatures from your hand. Let's see what's going on. My opponent is pausing. Maybe they have Solitude. Or maybe they have Recruiter, actually. Recruiter of the Guard is what I'm fearing here. Recruiter is what we fear. Oh, they had a Solitude. Okay. And 2 Baleful Strix, and a Gilded Drake, and Atris, Oracle of Half-Truths. My opponent plays Baleful Strix. We must get rid of that Solitude, because we already have a Bridge in our graveyard. Yeah, this is not going to be easy. But I like matches like this against Hate Bears, creatures. So Dredge 6, we have an Ox. We can cast Ox from our graveyard. Unfortunately, we already hit our second Bridge from Below. My opponent is pausing, thinking about their Solitude, just to exile our bridges. Yeah, my opponent is a good player. Let's not celebrate anything. Our deck can win easily from here, but I believe my opponent, if my opponent has a second white card in their hand, I believe they will just cast Solitude in response to this Nadu Combo. Lavinia counters our Cabal Therapy as expected. Yeah. Oh, my opponent had a Samwise. So now my opponent has 3 blue creatures. They can cast... The Drake is not great against us. We don't have any great creature to be exchanged with the Drake. Baleful Strix or Atris are my opponent's choices for next turn. Now what? We can probably ignore Cephalic Coliseum this game. Let's see what's on top. Okay. We'll keep at least one of those spells. This Atris is like a mini Fact or Fiction, right? My opponent's deck probably has many ways to blink creatures. Almost every creature has Enter the Battlefield trigger. You know what? Let's keep 0 cards and crack Cephalic Coliseum. Because we have only 1 Dredger there. Okay, now we have many cards. Because since we now have only 1 bridge and our therapies will get exiled, we need to guarantee maximum value from our cards. If we don't, we will easily lose this game. We will not have that many zombies anymore because of my opponent's Solitude. So let's bring back those babies. Come on, zombos. Let's win this game. If my opponent had 0 Lavinias, we could reanimate Satoru and win the game right now. But against Lavinia, we can't. I can cast Dredge Return anyways. Since this is our last Bridge from Below, I think this is something that we can do. Lavinia will counter it, but we will have 3 more zombies. I think I will still wait a little bit more because we will have an Ox next turn. My opponent doesn't know about that, and we'll probably hit Anger when we cast Ox. So our zombies will just be a nice surprise to our opponent. That's the only way we can win this game. Okay, my opponent will cast Gilded Drake anyways. Oh, just to get rid of our bridge, right? Yeah, nice. Nice play. For a moment I was thinking, well, my opponent wants a tapped Death Touch creature. No, they wanted Gilded Drake in the graveyard. Okay, now I'm sorry about not casting that Dredge Return. I didn't see that coming. We still have 3 Death Touch creatures, right? And maybe an Anger Ox coming. So maybe you can win anyways. Those Dredge Returns are ways to just bring back Poxwalkers. So let's discard. We will Dredge. Okay, we hit Anger. So now we can only draw cards. We don't need anything else. Oh, Thassa's Oracle is in our hand. Okay, if anything goes right here, we can win with Thassa's Oracle from our hand. I confess that I wasn't tracking Thassa's Oracle, but this is extraordinary. We have exactly 6 cards in our graveyard. Our opponent did block here and there, down to 8. We can maybe win with attacking. Oh, I'm sorry guys, I was talking about resolving Dredge Return. Of course we cannot resolve Dredge Return because we don't have 4 lands. Lavinia has another clause. I was just thinking, okay, let's save this Dredge Return for another moment, but we cannot cast. But yeah, my opponent will draw 1 or 2 cards now. Okay, 2 Recruiters and 1 Filia. None of them are actually really good here. My opponent is stepped out. I believe this is the first time playing against Esper Vial in the last 2 or maybe 3 months. I'm not sure when was the last time I played against this archetype. And Lavinia was just a distant memory for me. I was too focused on the Cabal Therapy thing. But yeah, you can only cast non-creature spells if you have the number of the land, the right amount of lands to cast, even if you cast for free in the case of Dredge Return. So you need 4 lands in play to cast a Dredge Return, and Dredge Return will get countered anyways, but you can cast it. Oof, now let's think here. Can I ludibriate my opponent to a mistake? I believe they will keep they kept Recruiter and Fidia anyways. And my opponent has a 5th land. We can probably win by attacking, but let's open the possibility to win with Thassa's Oracle being cast from our hand. We have a Gaze there to get Poxwalkers back. We still have 1 Arcomoeba in our deck. 1, 2, 3. We still have 1 Arco. We could even cast Ox here, but I think we will ignore Ox. We'll dredge 4. Okay, Narcomoeba is here, because if our Thassa's Oracle plan don't work, if my opponent has Force of Will, we can bring back Poxwalkers next turn and win the game anyways. This Narcomoeba has haste. My opponent could also have a Solitude in their hand. Okay, my opponent needs to block with Lavinia. Even better, because now we can resolve a Dredge Return. Oof. We win this game 1. This deck is so fun. It's so fun to have so many different paths to victory. I'm always surprised about what this deck can do. Sometimes I forget how incredible it is. No, I never forget, but sometimes I just... you see, I wasn't tracking Thassa's Oracle. Of course, this is already round 6. I'm a little bit tired, but I wasn't tracking Thassa's Oracle. This is something that you must do. Where is my Thassa's Oracle? Can I just draw it and win by casting it from my hand? It's something that you can do. Okay, Silent Gravestone is maybe interesting because my opponent can have that new card that I forgot that name. It's a demon, I believe, an enchantment demon or something like that from our newest edition. So Silent Gravestone is a good card against many possible cards that my opponent can have from their sideboard. What was that name? Demon Lord, Overlord of Denzelok? No, I am not remembering that name, but it is a card that can return cards from the graveyard every time it enters the battlefield. And my opponent can blink cards with Failure or with Flicker Wisp. Okay, this is a slow hand. Let's mulligan this. Oh, okay, let's skip this. Hopefully my opponent doesn't have a Wasteland. I'm not sure if Gravestone is good against this deck, but Gravestone is being good against everyone. So we draw a 2nd land, great. And now we play Gravestone. Let's start with this card. Let's see if this eats a Force of Will. Because my opponent kept 7 and did nothing on turn 1. Yeah, yeah. Silent Gravestone eating Force of Wills alive. It's the 2nd or 3rd time this happened in this league, right? My opponent unfortunately had a Wasteland, but we have a 2nd land and a draw spell. So let's draw more lands. Oh, and another Careful Study. So let's cast our first one. This will probably resolve. Yeah, oh, LED is great. I don't need to play LED here. I think I'll do anyways because my opponent doesn't have white mana to cast Cathar Commando or something like that. Or Witch's Enchanter, I believe it costs. Okay, my opponent has Faerie Macabre, so it makes sense to counter my Gravestone. But now we are good to win this game next turn, unless my opponent has an incredible thing on turn 2. Only a land. We'll draw. If this thing is actually good, now we must decide. Can we go for it? Or my opponent has a 2nd Fairy. My opponent is in an Eorium deck, but I think we want to... Okay, that was really good, because now we have another LED. Let's play it. I will pass the turn, guys. I don't want to lose my spot in the top 8, but I lost games like this in the past. When I go for it and my opponent just has a 2nd Faerie Macabre in their hand. Oh, it's Samwise. I was also thinking about Containment Priest. And if my opponent has a Containment Priest, it would be important to have more mana to maybe cast Ox in the future. Just the Samwise, another land, that's fine. Actually the same land, right? And now we'll dredge. It seems that my opponent doesn't have anything against our graveyard. If this Narcomoeba enters the battlefield, we can go for it. Yeah. So I believe we have the win here. Let's see. If we don't, we almost have the win. Let's start with Faithless Looting. If my opponent decides to do something, we can crack Cephalic Coliseum in response, like we already did this challenge. Dredge 6. We have 2 bridges. Of course, my opponent can have Solitude. And we already have 2 bridges, but no Cabal Therapy, so we cannot play around that, unfortunately. So let's maximize our gains here. Let's try to win the game. Hopefully my opponent doesn't have a Solitude. Only 3 cards in their hand. We dredge. Now we have 3 Narcos. We even have... Let's start with Cabal Therapy here, because if my opponent has Surgical Extraction targeting Poxwalkers, we can cast Otherworldly Gaze in response and grab those Poxwalkers anyways. Let's see, this is the moment. Yeah, no Solitude. No ways to get rid of our bridges. And now, what to name here? Oh, my opponent will cast Aphadia. Okay, a good dog, good girl. Let's name... actually, I don't think my opponent has a single thing here. First the Plowshares, maybe? They don't have Solitude. They can have... I don't think they have a Recruiter. Let's name Baleful Strix, another 2-drop. Oh, they have another Aphadia and Skyclave. Okay, we can take those. Guys, I think we have the win here. Unless my opponent has something like Cataclysm. But they don't have a 4th land. If they have a Wrath effect that costs 3 mana, something like Temporary Lockdown, or... I'm not sure. But, okay, we can even keep LED on top. We don't need it, actually, right? We don't need LED. Let's keep it, why not? We have everything. Guys, I think I will record every challenge that I play, because this is the 2nd challenge in a row. Let's name Skyclave. Skyclave. That I'm recording for the channel, and I entered the top 8. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Here comes the zombies. Philia. Not Philia, Phalia, right? But, you know what I mean. My opponent is Hellbent. Only 3 lands. They can crack for the trend for a Surveil land, maybe. But I don't think they can win this game anymore with a single card from the top. This game is super interesting. And my opponent is a great player here. I'm writing now here, I'm inviting my opponent to know our channel in the future, since this game will be featured in our next video. GG's, mate! Good luck in the top 8! GG's, thank you. Okay, we won, guys. We won. Now, yeah, we started in 4th position. We only lost to MayhemDJ, which is the Eldrazi player that we lost against in our 3rd round. But our deck is on fire. We are winning against everyone else. Let's do to our top 8 match. It's the top 8, guys. And this is a good hand. This can be a turn 1. Oh, my opponent is a fan of the channel. So let's skip this, because this is a great... So, opponent, if you're here, I don't know what will happen in our matchup. But after that, if you're watching this, let me know in the comments below. So my opponent had a mulligan to 5. Okay, my opponent knows that I'm playing Dredge, and sometimes... Oh, my opponent is a green deck. Sometimes players, knowing that I am a Dredge guy, try to hit a mulligan, trying to hit their response, their answer, their silver bullet in the main deck. So maybe my opponent has an Endurance, or maybe a Green Zenith. So let's see. This seems like a Nadu deck with blue, but it can just be a blue Zenith deck with Nadu. Since we have a Cephalic Coliseum, which is a guaranteed win on turn 2, let's not be so bold here, trying to win on game 1, or on turn 1. This is probably, especially because we have Satoru, this is probably a turn 1 win, but sometimes variants can put everything on the toilet. Sometimes we'll dredge and find nothing. Okay, we had Ox of Agonas, this would be probably a win. But I think I was... because I saw my opponent mulliganing, and maybe they have a turn 2 Graveyard Hate. Okay, we have a Cephalic Coliseum, let's wait. We have a Cephalic Coliseum here. A Kyrion Ranger, okay. So if my opponent has Gaia's Cradle, they can have lots and lots of mana. Okay, they are untapping birds and replaying Tropical. Okay, it is the opposite. They only have Tropical Island. They can have a Chord of Calling here, maybe. Because they have 2 untapped mana, but if they convoke here... Okay, let's dredge. Narcomoeba. And we have a bridge there, so maybe they only have an Endurance. Let's check for traps here. Let's cast Cabal Therapy, pinning a zombie, before doing anything else. Oh, oh yeah, I forgot about Kyrion Ranger ability here. They have access to a Chord of Calling for a creature with a 2 mana cost. Oh, now they have some options. They have some good options here. I should... Collector Oath. Yeah, guys, this was a misplay of my part. I should play Cephalic Coliseum. Let's name Endurance anyways. Green Zenith. I should play Cephalic Coliseum before, because this... If I saw that going on, I will probably crack LED in response. But now... We can still win this. My opponent has nothing going on. This was their only answer. So let's dredge and dredge. Okay. We have a dredge return. We don't have Poxwalkers yet. We need more creatures to win this game. We need a single Poxwalkers or a single Narcomoeba to win this game next turn. Yeah, you see, guys, sometimes it happens. You cannot see every card that is hidden from your view, right? You cannot see your opponent's hand. You don't know what's on top of your deck. So if in situations like this, if I go for a turn 1 and my opponent has an Endurance, I can only say, oh, I shouldn't go for it. I should have wait 1 more turn to win the game with more insurance. Okay, let's discard Satoru here, because if we have a single Narcomoeba or Poxwalkers next turn, we will win the game. And we will see 9 cards. We have Otherworldly Gaze and a Grave Troll in our graveyard. And sometimes things like this will happen. Let's concentrate here. This is the top 8 of an important tournament. So let's be fully concentrated. So Dredge 6. Okay, we have the win. Unless my opponent has another chord or an endurance, we have the win. And I think they don't have because Narcos are just entering the battlefield. I will not play around anything here. Let's just try to put the Turbo in the battlefield. We could play Otherworldly Gaze first, maybe trying to hit something else, but my intuition is that anything will resolve here. So let's Dredge 5, and now I will cast Otherworldly Gaze. I have Chocobo Therapies and 1 Poxwalkers. Okay, another Poxwalkers, great. What can my opponent have in their hand? Cast Chocobo Therapy to understand what's going on. What's going on? What's going on? 3 Poxwalkers entering the battlefield. We can win with Anger, we can win with Thassa's Oracle. So we Dredge 6. Oracle is there. I have Dredge 6 again. Nakomiba is there. Anger is there. Okay, we have everything. Satoru triggering again. We can Dredge 5. We have 2 cards in our graveyard. Satoru trigger 1 last time. And we draw Bogaritha. Let's see what's going on here. I will name anything. Yeah, just lands. Okay. Okay, my opponent was representing something. Exactly right, because they did activate Kirin Ranger to have more mana twice. But it could have been another card. And we won our first game in this top 8. On turn 3, this could be a turn 1, but was a turn 3. And now what? My opponent is a 2-box deck. They have even Collector Oof in the main deck. So they probably have Keen-Eye Curator or Scavenging Ooze. Both cards target cards in our graveyard, so Silent Gravestone can be super useful again. They may have Faerie Macabre or Surgical Extraction. Or they may have 4 Endurances plus Chord plus Green Sun Zenith, and then Leyline of Sanctity is better. I will not include Leyline of Sanctity and Silent Gravestone at the same time, since we won game 1. I need to choose here. My opponent said big zombie energy, yeah. So Leyline of Sanctity is my option against Endurance. I feel that I cannot win on turns 1 and 2 against an Endurance, but I can win on turns 1 and 2 against Keen-Eyed Curator or Scavenging Ooze, even against a single Surgical Extraction. We didn't see Endurance on my opponent's deck, but I'm always expecting Endurance when I play against green creature decks. Maybe we don't need anything. Yeah, let's submit without any changes and see what happens. Okay, this is just a mulligan. My opponent kept 7 cards on the play. That's scary. Oh, is that a mulligan or a keep? 3 Narcos. True, actually, because this is a mulligan to... Is this barely a keep or is this a mulligan? What do you think? Again, write me down here in the comment section. I will mulligan. This has the potential, right? We have Cephalic Coliseum, we have our best Dredger, and we have LED. I think I will keep both Dredgers and Satoru, because if we draw a single neighbor or 2 fetch lands in a row, we can crack Cephalic Coliseum and win the game. And I don't think my opponent will keep the Collector Oof against us. Okay, Noble Hierarch for our opponent, a good start. We did draw a fetch land. I'll play it, just to play lands around a possible wasteland that my opponent can have. We can even cast Satoru from our hand. Kirin Ranger, okay, it's a slow start for our opponent. And 2 mana Scavenging Ooze, okay. Oh, guys, now I don't think we can win. We need to draw an enabler now. This is a situation where a Surveil land would be good, but it is so hard to have tapped lands in this deck. Nakomiba is probably our worst draw in the deck. Not probably, certainly. I'm not even sure if I want Satoru in play. Maybe I want Satoru as my 7th card when I activate Alliance Eye Diamond. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need 1 extra card. Crack EDD and crack Cephalic Coliseum. But my opponent will have lots of mana. We could also just cast Nakomiba. We need to win this game. We need to, I don't know, change some enablers in a row. Or maybe if we wait just 1 small mistake for our opponent, like this one. My opponent is stepping out to cast creatures. This is probably a small mistake, but my opponent is feeling safe because they have 1, 2, 3 mana available, 4 mana available. So this seems enough. But against Dredge, sometimes you need something like 5, 6 mana available. Because I have a Lion's Eye Diamond in my hand. My opponent doesn't know about that. Okay, but my opponent will probably win this. We cannot go for it. Let's wait 1 more turn. My opponent is attacking, dealing 4 damage with 1 Ooze and 2 exalted creatures, but no cards to be exiled from our graveyard. Okay, Sylvan Safekeeper is not a huge problem. And Thassa's Oracle. Okay, this is a Nadu deck. We just didn't see Nadu yet. I too am a Merfolk player, played the opponent. And my opponent untaps Snubble, plays around. Okay, my opponent is Hellbent. So this is it. We draw. Another Cabal Therapy, okay. Now what? Okay, now we cry. I should probably concede this, but I want to see a little bit more of my opponent's deck, because this is a slightly different build of Nadu. So let's not concede yet. Information is key to win games of Magic. And since game 1 was so fast, let's be patient, guys. Let's be patient. Pay attention. Don't go away. Stay there. Let's see. My opponent is attacking with birds. Why? My opponent could attack with Scavenging Ooze here as a 4/4. Okay. So we draw another Dredger. So we have 3 Dredgers now. Let's play LD. And I'll cast a single Cabal Therapy just to see what's going on in my opponent's hand. Because I want information. Let's name Chord of Calling. Endurance. So my opponent has Endurance. Okay, my opponent has the win here. He can cast Endurance. Not exactly the win, but my opponent has a win because I will be forced to block with Satoru. Of course, my opponent doesn't know about my hand. Maybe they think I have a bounce spell. We could have an Into the Flood Maul here. In this specific spot, that could be good. Oh, my opponent will attack only with birds. My opponent is being conservative, as I was in game 1. So, yeah, everybody wants to get to top 4. So I'm tapping birds, playing a land, playing another birds, and I know that you have an Endurance. All the mana dorks. Okay, now we have 4 Dredgers. So if at any point my opponent taps out for a single reason, that we can win the game out of nowhere because we have a Satoru. But I'm not confident. I will just wait one more turn. Let's cast this Nakomiba purely as a blocker. So we can cast a Cabal Therapy targeting our opponent just to see what else they have in their hand. If they have Faerie Macabre, for example. Yeah, my opponent casts Endurance, targeting ourselves, targeting us. And now, one new card. What else they have? What we could draw here to get us from this situation? Maybe a second Cephalic or the Worldly Gaze would be sweet. Cards, blue cards, not red cards. Faithless Looting, if my opponent taps some mana this turn, Faithless Looting could also be good because we could discard our hand for red. My opponent tries to exile one of our Dredgers. Oh, Spring Heart and Tuco. Targeting Endurance. Oh, I will never win this game. My opponent can have infinite Endurances now. At sorcery speed, but you know what I mean. Okay, my opponent will get frisky with every creature, except the Mana Dorks. My opponent shouldn't attack with Scavenging Ooze here, because I can just block it. My opponent attacks with everyone. I block Ooze, and I block Endurance. My opponent deals 3 damage. I'll go down to 2, and I can win the game in my own turn. Yeah, my opponent shouldn't attack with Ooze. Even Kyrian Ranger here, if you think about it, because now my opponent will have less mana. So we are forced to block Endurance. If we don't, we die. And now I will block Kyrian Ranger here. So now my opponent has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. Yeah, this is still enough to bust from winning the game. Okay, my opponent untaps Endurance. Okay, problem. 1, 2. Okay, so now they have another Endurance. Oh, they need to pay mana to put a copy. I was forgetting about it. But this is okay. Let's see. My opponent now has 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. Careful Study. Careful Study is actually good. It's a desperation move here, but let's see if it will pay off. Oh, okay. Now we cannot win from here, right? We cannot win from here, right? Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 Dredgers and 2 Cephalic Coliseums. Our opponent has only 4 mana. Okay, let's do the math. I don't think it is possible, but maybe this is our single window to win this game. Okay, no Grave Troll for us. We have 8 cards. We still have Threshold. Okay, another Imp. My opponent still has 2 mana. I have 2 Dredgers, but I have another Cephalic Coliseum. Okay, it's now or never. We have Threshold, but my opponent is exiling one of our Dredgers. Let's activate our second Cephalic Coliseum. We will have less Dredgers, and somehow we need to chain Dredgers here to win this game. We have a single Dredger now. We will Dredge 5. Okay, we couldn't chain Dredgers, but we will discard our Dredgers, and my opponent is tapped. Now we still have a chance. We need an Narcomoeba. We have an Narcomoeba. We couldn't chain Dredgers, but now we can make some zombies. Narcomoeba will trigger Satoru. It's our last chance to chain a Dredger. Dredge 5. We couldn't. Okay. Yeah, let's think. 1, 2, 3 therapies. 1, 2 Poxwalkers. 1 Dredge Return. 1 Thassa's Oracle. We did cast this Satoru from our hand, so we have another Dredge Return because we didn't exchange cards. So we have our main board here. We need to do the math. I cast Cabal Therapy targeting myself to discard this Liquid Imp. I think I need to sacrifice Satoru instead of Narcomoeba. Is that correct? Because I have 3 therapies there. It can maybe work if I just sacrifice Narcomoeba, but if I sacrifice Satoru, I have the... Let's do it. Let's do it! I'm so afraid. Let's do it. We have some zombies, and 2 Poxwalkers enter the battlefield, and now we name Stink with Imp. And now we reanimate Satoru. We have more zombies, and Satoru will trigger itself. And now we need to chain Dredgers. Please, deck, please. We have 2 Dredgers there. So let's cast Cabal Therapy targeting ourselves again. Sacrificing Poxwalkers. Satoru triggers. We Dredge 5. Narcomoeba enters. Satoru triggers. We'll dredge 4. Another Poxwalker's there. We'll name Stinkweed Imp. We have one Cabal Therapy there. We must go to the very deep of our deck. 2 Poxwalkers entering the battlefield, triggering Satoru twice. First one, Dredge 6. Okay, no Dredge return yet, but we have Narcomoeba. And I think we have the win. I'm not breathing. breathe. Dredge 5. We have Anger, but we don't have a mounting. But we have Dredge return. My opponent gave me the GG's. GG's. This was intense. We dredge 4. 0 cards in our deck. We must say no to this Narcomoeba. If we say yes, we lose the game. So no. It doesn't matter. We can name sticker Goblin here. Ooh, and now when we click Thassa's Oracle, sacrificing Satoru in his own honor, and we win this match. We really won this match. I am speechless. Ooh. It was game 2. We are 6-1. We only lost round 3 against Eldrazi. We had a 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-1, and 1 loss, 1-2. We are going to the top 4. Don't go anywhere. Okay, we are on the play against the same Eldrazi player. Okay, the basic mountain is coming back to haunt us. This could actually work. We are on the play. We could keep it, but let's try to mulligan this. And this is also a mulligan. Let's go to 5. My opponent kept 7. Okay, this can work. We'll keep 2 Dredgers and 2 Enablers in 1 land. We need to find a second land. My opponent has a Devourer of Destiny. But this time we are on the play, so no Chalice. This is important. We are on the play against the only player that won against us. And now we have a second land. My opponent has a Devourer of Destiny trigger. Oh, and again, this is a great combination of cards. Once upon a time with the big monster. So my opponent will look to 9 cards. It's a grab 1 card plus Scry 4. No Drifter. This can exile our bridges. Let's keep that in mind. My opponent is taking forever here. Maybe this is not an easy choice. Maybe they have several good cards, or maybe... Yeah, no good cards. My opponent did exile 4 cards, and they have a turn 1 Wasteland. Okay, maybe they want Kozilek's return. We'll dredge 5. We have an Ox there, and we also have a dredge return. Our basic mountain is there, so we must grab a Volcanic Island here. But since we are so ahead, my opponent probably will not play a second Wasteland even if they have a second Wasteland. We know about no Drifter, but we don't have anything to protect in our graveyard yet, so let's pass a turn here. Let's wait 1 more turn. My opponent plays Eldrazi Temple. Okay, we don't care too much about this yet. Let's dredge 6. We need a bridge. We have a bridge, we have Cabal Therapy. We don't have Pokokers yet. But we have a Dredge Return, and we have Ox, and we have Anger. So I think I will attack and then cast a Cabal Therapy to have a 2/2 zombie as a blocker. Maybe my opponent will not attack into it. And let's grab that no Drifter before my opponent draws cards with that crit. And luckily we will find Poxwalkers next turn. So no Drifter. Yeah, my opponent's hand is not that great. We have a second Therapy, but my opponent doesn't have, at least now, access to this card next turn. They need a lot of spell for that. So I think we'll have a chance here. So let's spell, right? 3 lands. The Devourer is an expensive card. My opponent needs 2 more soul lands to cast the Devourer of Destiny. They have 1. Eye of Ugin. This was my opponent's draw for the turn. So my opponent... Oh, my opponent is attacking. I will not block. I think my Bridge from Below is more valuable than this exchange here. So let's dredge 6. Narcomoeba. Yeah, Narcomoeba and Poxwalkers. So we have 1 Bridge and 2 Cabal Therapies. We have the win, guys. We have the win. We have the win against our nemesis this tournament. At least on game 1. So let's name... So win. And now we cast Dredge Return, bringing back Zophagonus. And this is important to do before attacking, because I believe we'll have many more zombies to attack this turn. So Ox, guide us the win. Dredge 6, Dredge 12, Dredge 18. Have Dredge Return and Thassa's Oracle there, but we will not win with Thassa's Oracle this turn. We have 12 cards in our deck, but we can have a large Grave Troll, which is always a stylish way to win the game. So let's do this. So let's name Grave Troll. I believe older players like me will always love this play here. Just attack with a giant hasty Grave Troll, and that's enough to win the game. I will even sacrifice Ox here, because we will have more zombies to doing that. We already have Lethal. Why not? Let's cast this last Cabal Therapy here just to make a couple more of zombies. Yeah, my opponent did concede. Now it's tough, because we are on the draw. And on the draw against Eldrazi, as we saw in our first round against this player, let's remember here, my opponent has Chalice of the Void, my opponent has Faerie Macabre, right? We did saw Faerie. There were so many games that I'm not sure. I think we saw a Faerie on 1 game, right? Or 2 games. Yeah. Okay, so that's exactly what we would do. Gravestone instead of the Oracle combo. I still keep Ox because Ox is a card that you can just cast with 2 red mana. Or an LED, right? But this is a mulligan. My opponent kept 7 cards, and this is unfortunately a mulligan. Okay, this is great. 2 basic lands. I think I keep both basic lands here. Because if my opponent has a Chalice on 1, let's see. Eldrazi Temple, Lotus Petal. Oh, it is Chalice on 1. Okay, now it's a little bit worse. But we have our Dredgers. Let's play Mountain, LED. My opponent has 4 cards in their hand. So I think we must go for it, discarding our hand here. And just hoping that the opponent kept a hand of 7 because of a turn 1 Chalice and not because they also have a Faerie Macabre. So let's discard our hand here. And we will Dredge 6. Dredge 6? Okay, no Fairy. Oh, and now we have Ox of Agonas. That's bad. But that's life. Maybe next turn we can have a natural draw. Maybe you can hit another land. Narco enters the battlefield. We will pass the turn. That's actually a really nice choice to try to win this game next turn. Instead of Dredge 6, if my opponent has a big Eldrazi. Unless my opponent has a Thought-Knot Seer. But we can try to be lucky and hit a second land before my opponent exile our basic mounting. Eye of Ugin. No colored mana. My opponent did use Lotus Petal on turn 1. Oh, they have a Faerie Macabre now. Exiling our Ox of Agonas. So no Ox, no Grave Troll. Only a single Narcomoeba against the powerful Eldrazi. Let's attack. Now it seems like Faerie Macabre was my opponent's top deck last turn. Because waiting until that moment does not make that much sense. So I think it is exactly what happened. Okay, Cephalic Coliseum is not that bad because we can play it. And if we top deck another land, we can crack it. My opponent is holding cards, so probably they need colored mana. Or maybe it's just a large Devourer of Destiny. And my opponent needs 1 more land. Okay, now they have colored mana. Cavern of Souls. For mana, green mana. Yeah, sawing Microspawn with Seeker. So we will lose both lands, I believe. Yeah, Wasteland. And we'll draw another Dredger. So let's consider here, guys. It will be decided on game 3. Sorry. And yeah, it is all in. The prize is a spot on the finals. The match is tied. Let's think about it for a moment. And we kept, I forgot telling you guys. I'm sorry, I'm too focused. Let's keep the same configuration. Okay, this can win the game. Let's keep it. We are on the play. Unfortunately, if my opponent has a Chalice on 1 again, this is bad. My opponent also kept 7. No Devourer of Destiny. So let's start with Silent Gravestone. We have several good top decks here. Oh, my opponent is reading the card. Yeah, take that, Faerie Macabre. And please, no Chalice. Ancient Tomb. Oh, they have it, right? Chalice of the Void. Now let's top deck a Lion's Eye Diamond like a champ. Another Gravestone. I'm not sure if I play Cephalic Coliseum here or I just wait a little bit more. I can cast an Narcomoeba, but if we wait 2 more turns, we can even win Manaless Dredge style. Just discarding a Dredger that is on top of our library now. Okay, Flashwrecker is scary. Lotus Petal is scary. And that's it. Okay, we draw. Second Narcomoeba. What? Let's pass the turn. Opponent taps stone. Oh, they have Thought-Knot Seer. So we don't have ways to cast a Dredger next turn, unfortunately. If we top deck LED, we discard our hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, we need 1 more card now. We have 2 more turns to draw something. Okay, there's more. Oh, my opponent is casting a Faerie Macabre, of course. Cavern Souls naming Fairy. And Lotus Petal. Yeah. So my opponent had a great hand of 7 cards, guys. We needed a little bit more to win against Faerie Macabre plus Chalice plus Flashwrecker. Eye of Ugin. Yeah. Come on, let's draw. Lion's Eye Diamond. Okay. So you're telling me there's a chance. My opponent doesn't have lethal yet. Okay, I have some hopes. We could win this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need 1 more card in the graveyard. So we need to survive 1 turn here. If I cast Narcomoeba here, I will take 2 damage. I can block a Thought-Knot Seer. Yeah. Okay, guys, Grave Troll on top, and we can win this game. Our opponent attacks. Can we wait for 8 damage? We will go down to 4. We cannot. No, I think we are forced to block here because we need this extra card in our graveyard. It is tempting, but yeah, we need to block. Either way, if we don't block here, my opponent can have a couple of colorless spells and win the game with Flashwrecker. So we block, and now we draw a Dredger. No, another LED. We can still hit something. It's not the worst draw in our deck. We need to discard everything here. So blue and red. And now we need to find a Dredger on the top 3 cards. Oh, we couldn't. Now we need to find Dredger and Ox on the top 3 cards. Last chance. Dredger finally. But no Ox. We have Faithless Looting, but with Chalice on 1, it is unfortunately game over. But guys, this was an amazing run. I'm not feeling sorry for anything. I think it was an amazing run. I will take a breath now, and I will do the commentary soon. So what we learned about our deck today? Well, I'm really a fan, guys. I like this deck. I think it is super competitive. It is not that easy to play though. You probably need some guidance at the beginning because this deck has so many different ways to win the game, to dodge your opponent's graveyard hate. But at the end of the day, I think this deck is super strong. We actually did something here in our previous series of videos about Legacy here on the channel, because we had a starting point that wasn't that much competitive, and then we built this, and I'm a fan. I will still play this. This is probably the core of the deck that I will take to Eternal Weekend. When you play Dredge, you must accept that there are some variances when you just keep medium average starting hands. So mulliganing is an art, and you should use mulligan, especially when playing Dredge. In this challenge, you watched many wins with Anger, some wins with Satoru and Thassa's Oracle, especially our win against the green deck on top 8. It was really special to win an unwinnable match thanks to surprise Satoru, the Infiltrator being cast from your hand. So it did pay off. Sometimes people say, no, you don't need to have Satoru because you should just include a second Ox of Agonos or maybe other card. But Satoru really can win games out of the blue. Out of you decide. So yeah, the third breach from below, it was good. Sometimes it wasn't necessary, it wasn't needed, but it helped us to win games faster. And I did enjoy the basic mountain as well. About our sideboard, no rods are question mark in my book. I'm not sure if we need them to win games. Maybe what we will probably do here is just to exchange no rods and something else to re-include bounce spells against the Leyline of the Void. But as you saw here, the Leylines are not that common these days in Legacy. If you want extra guidance to understand and to play decks like this one, go right to my Patron and subscribe, of course. If you enjoy my content, click the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment below, and I see you on our next video. Bye.